Okay. Think we're on. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, perfect. All right, so welcome to this Zoom. We're going to be going over the conversation and the PowerPoint that I put together initially for the general public, but then I was like, oh my gosh, why don't I do one specifically for residents? So thank you, those of you who have already tapped in. Thank you to those of you who are going to watch this at a later date. I'm Ash, or Dr. Ashley Allen, or Surfer Dr. Arcoides, or a million different things, as I bet a lot of you are known by different names, known by different titles. We wear different masks at different times. And so my desire for this course is to briefly, in a short container, I might talk a little fast just to get it all in because I know we're all busy. My desire is to bring us into attention to the fact that in order for us to be really good providers, physicians, resident physicians specifically is where this is geared, nurses, APPs, other healers, literally anyone who's in any sort of healing, whether that be in the Western or the non-Western modalities, in order for us to do our work the best that we possibly can, we need to be patient number one. Okay. And what I mean by that is, how many of you have ever gone to a provider yourselves and been like, interesting that they're giving me advice when they are like, I'm not obesity shaming at any point in time, but when they are sitting here telling me to have diet and exercise, but they look like they probably also are on diabetic medication or hypertensive medications or should be taking a statin. Or how many of you have felt shame as you're telling your patients, hey, get outside and exercise 5 times a day, or this would be really good for you, or eat this kind of stuff, when we're like, shoving our faces with the like convenience food that we can get while we're on shift. How many of us are getting the rest that we need and taking time for ourselves in the ways that we need to fill in and pour into ourselves? An old punk band called Me Without You was the inspiration for my first tattoo that then I got done again on my arm, with their lyrics that say, a glass can only spill what it contains. A glass, a vessel can only spill what it contains. Okay. So if we want to be able to pour out to our patients and give them the soundest advice and to know also intuitively how to guide them, not only with our background and our training, but being able to tap in even deeper than that and be able to see them beyond the diagnosis, beyond the physical stuff that's in front of us. That's a whole different topic for another time. Talk to me about noetic medicine if you're curious. But in order to be able to do those things, we need to be replenishing ourselves. So a little background on me. I recently graduated from one of the top emergency programs in the country. I am a single mom, so I put myself through med school and residency as a single mom. My kids went through their own health issues, as did I, during our residency, which were devastating, also to be shared at another time if you're curious. I'm happy, I'm an open book, but for the sake of time, won't go into it. And I was suffering. I was struggling. I was so burnt out and so exhausted. And, I'd come home from work and I'd fall asleep putting my kids to bed, and they were being parented by my nannies that I could barely afford because I was making minimum wage if you put down the hours, right? And I was suffering from migraines that were so bad. I was like on Vyepti infusions and none of it was working. And I was like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? I was in trouble with my residency for missing. I was also in trouble because I spoke out about different patient advocacy issues that were concerning to me. Um, and I started to reflect and realize that actually the problem here was that I wasn't pouring into myself the way that I needed, the way that I knew I needed. And, for me, that's exercise, it's travel, it's getting out, it's connecting with my family, it's going to shows, it's being around live music, it's being around people that light me up, it's doing my own alternative healing modalities that actually were what eventually cured my migraines and have kept them at bay. But in doing that, I realized that if I'm having this experience, I know I'm not alone. I mean, look at look at, and I also suffered from depression and was on medication for the first time in my entire life. I'm 41 now. I was an older student going through because I was a nurse in my past life, and I was like, if I'm struggling with this, how many other residents and how many other physicians and how many other providers are in the same boat where we are just barely making it ourselves, but we're expected to perform perfectly. We're expected to pour out into these other people endlessly. So I want you to give yourself permission for the next 45 minutes and hopefully the rest of your life to learn that putting yourself first is not selfish. It's actually dangerous not to. It is dangerous to not take care of ourselves because not only does that mean that we make mistakes or we um, aren't aware of the way that we're killing our own bodies and harming ourselves with the practices and habits that we have. But it's also dangerous because we are setting an example for our patients of how to actually take care of themselves, right? So we have such a huge responsibility in our hands, right? To do no harm. And one of the biggest ways that we can do no harm and actually promote health and wellness and healing in real ways with and without medication and procedures is to lead by example. Okay. So, when I first put this course together, like I said, it was more towards the general public and people that are suffering with thoughts of depression or anxiety or trying to figure out how to like raise their vibration, whatever that means to you, and if you want to get woo-woo or not. But basically, it transformed into this. So some of the slides might be a little remedial. And so I'll gloss over the things that most of you probably already know. Obviously, if there are ever any questions, reach out to me. I can give you the lowdown, or you can see my course that's made for the general public. If there's some things that you're like, I didn't really understand that, depending on where you are in your profession or your training. I'm happy. I want everyone to be informed and educated, but I also want to speak to the right populations with the right lingo. Okay. So we all know that our brain is remarkable. We know we have like billions of neurons. We know that signals are being shot in each direction, like giving, receiving, communicating, signaling different hormone cascades and channel receptor activities and all of these different things. And they're happening at 1,000,000 miles a minute in our bodies without our thoughts controlling them, right? It's been guessed that we have between 50 and 80,000 thoughts every single day. Okay. Why am I bringing this back to light? Because our thoughts matter. And not all of them matter, right? Like not every single one that we get is one that we need to sit with and register. And especially in our profession, and we're being barraged by different things, or there's alarms going off, or there's 20 million people that are asking you for something while you're trying to put in orders on your patient you saw 20 minutes ago, right? It's a lot. And the more that we can train ourselves to control those thoughts and also can train our response to them or kind of take a back seat. It's called The Untethered Soul, I think is the book that talks about that being a back seat to your experience instead of having to live in that place of overthinking all the time. That is a game changer. So a couple things that are really powerful for that is reframing. So anytime that you're like, oh man, and you have a thought that's negative, right? Whether it's you actually actively thinking about it or it's just a passive subconscious thought that comes in where you're like, I messed up or I made a mistake or I'm no good at that. I want you to reframe it as I am so glad that I know this now and I'm learning, right? Or when you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, haven't been to the gym enough, or oh, I overate, or I love the body that I have right now. And I love that I'm noticing because of my astute clinician eyes that something's not how I want it to be or how it should be or what's maybe the best for my health. And I'm listening and I'm going to do something about it. Right. So reframing is a big, powerful tool. The next time you catch yourself in a downward spiral, start doing it. Or even better, do it when you're having good thoughts and be solidifying those thoughts. So that way it's kind of more automatic that that's where your mind goes. That's where your brain goes. The more that you do that, the patterns and those new neural synapses get more solidified, the easier it is to do it and to just live in a place of positivity, of clear thought, of only letting the things get to you that need to, equanimity, right? When you're in a space of equanimity, Oh my God, the amount that you can get done in the same amount of time is astounding, right? So this isn't just a game changer for you yourself. This is also a game changer for like how you can shape your world and affect and positively influence the people around you, right? So take note. Um, Another thing that's really helpful, and there's a guy on Instagram, I think he's called the self-talker, talks about mirror conversation. So going in front of a mirror. I mean, most of us look in the, if you're like me, sometimes I don't look enough in the mirror. I'm like, oh my God, no one told me I had lettuce in my teeth from 4 hours ago when I scarfed a sandwich, you know? But when you do look in a mirror, look yourself straight in the eyes. Hi, I love you. Or I love, enter your name. I love Ashley Rebecca Allen. And say it to yourself and glow yourself up. I got this. And even better is when you talk to yourself in the third person saying, you've got this. Another game changer. A lot of professional athletes do that. They talk to themselves in the third person. Come on, you got this. Keep going. You know, and we need to be able to give ourselves that same pep talk and that same self-love, and using the mirror as your best practice tool or one of your armory of amazing practice tools can be a game changer. Um, if you're having a downtime where you're like, oh my God, like just so down on yourself, or you had a really hard case or family issues or whatever it could be, you name it, go and tell it to yourself and watch yourself listening to you. And then wait and see, what advice would you give yourself, or would you give a friend who was saying those same things to you, right? Would you shame them the way that you shame yourself for having these experiences? Would you judge yourself or your friend for having these experiences? Or would you say, no, hey, it's all good, and give them whatever perfect word that they needed at that time, or maybe no words, right? And some silence and a big hug. Hugging yourself too, guys. I know it sounds bizarre. It's still human contact, right? And so if you're in a space where you're not getting enough hugs in your day, give them to yourself. You know, these are all things that we have for free at our disposal at any point in time. So this is, I want you to get more conscious and more proactive about implementing these little things that are quick, easy. And the more you do them, the more I don't even have to think about it, right? Oh, there's a little hummingbird. Um, and then going from that too, talking about mindfulness and meditation, you know, I think in the Western world, people are starting to get more on board with the fact that this is like critically important. There's still some that are, you know, not really, maybe if there's not all the scientific evidence behind it, which there is, that they're a little hesitant to it, but engage in mindfulness practice, whether it just be that you sit still before you go into shift or after shift, with some music on or with a guided meditation, and you just be. And your thoughts may still come in, and that's okay. You just let them go out the other side without passing any judgment, without following it down a rabbit hole. Practice that even a couple minutes a day. If you can extend it more to be like 20 or 30 minutes, it's incredible. They've said before, like, if you have the time, you should meditate for 30 minutes a day. And if you're busy and don't have the time, you should do it for 2 hours. There's something to that, where if we're busy, we can't afford to not take time to do that. My first job right out of residency, I did a locums job in the Virgin Islands, and it was bananas and so intense, but so wonderful also. And I learned from the island people that, you know, there were people that would come in 2 hours late for a shift, or they would go take a break, you know, 5 times a day. And I'm sitting over here grinding and like in my, you know, Western way of doing things, which, you know, there's a time and place for both. But I was able to learn how to slow down a little bit. And I was like, okay, well, if everyone else is taking breaks, I'm going to go take 10 minutes. That was a game changer. And I realized that through residency, I kind of subconsciously would always hydrate so much that I would be running to the bathroom a lot, which is also really important. We got to do that to prevent ourselves from getting bladder cancer, right? But then the bathroom became my place where I could just take a breath for a minute, maybe catch up on phone messages and make sure there wasn't anything emergent that came through. You know, do you know how many things from my kids I missed because I was so focused on my job? So giving yourself those breaks, giving yourself time to reset. And you know, the amount of things that when I'd walk it back into that emergency room that I was so clear-headed about and I knew exactly what it was, or the things that I caught, that slipped past other providers before and could have really hurt someone, all because I took some time. Okay. So instead of rushing, I used to see if I could finish my meal before I got back down to the ED because I wasn't sure if I would get another chance. That was residency. And towards the end, I started just sitting for 5 minutes, eating what I could, and then going down. And even that made a huge difference. So take your time. Okay. Nourish your body. Listen to the messages it's giving you. Give yourself some time for some big, deep breaths. Okay. And reset, because we handle a lot. We see a lot. We are there for things that are unspeakable that we can't even share with those who aren't in healthcare or aren't in our field because they wouldn't get it. And it's gruesome or intense or whatever, right? We need to give ourselves that pause and acknowledge, hey, that was some heavy, that I just went through and that family went through, or that patient, you know, the more that we can slow down enough to do that, that's going to change not only for yourself, but also for your patients and also for the families and also for your learners that are below you. If you're a senior resident or you're an attending, they are learning from you and the model that you give, right? I remember one of my favorite attendings, after a really tough case came in, he stopped and we all took a moment of silence. And then he took the time to print off a poem by Robert Frost. I can't remember the name of the poem, but I was so touched by that then I started carrying forward a similar practice and was even able to do that, in other jobs where people are like, oh my God, we've never taken a moment of silence before. That was really powerful. And people are tearing up and processing. They're being human for a second. So give yourself a chance to be human. Give your staff and your learners that are under you, learning from you, the same pause to be human. We're not robots. We are working hours and in a system that doesn't allow us to emote enough, but we are not robots. And you know what? When we don't address it, ask yourself how many of your colleagues have substance use issues. Ask how many of them drink, probably way too much, especially by the standards that we're supposed to be prescribing for our patients, right? I've had friends who have ended up with DUIs and lost their license. I've had other people who, thankfully, no one directly close to me, but we've all heard about residents who have committed suicide, or physicians outside of, their first few years taking their own lives. How many of your colleagues are on antidepressants, or how many of you? And that's okay. Okay. I'm not saying that's not okay if you need it, but I started to look around and see how many of us, the percentages were like ungodly, like way out of proportion with the normal public. It's heavy what we hold. And it is okay to use the modalities that we need to process and to heal and to purge and to forget about a night sometimes. I'm not telling you not to do any of those things. I'm telling you to be careful with yourself. Be careful with the responsibilities you have. Be careful with your license. Okay. The other thing that kind of goes along with the mindfulness, visualization, like if you have an outcome that you want, visualize that, see it, details, every single little detail, what you see, smell, taste, hear, who's there with you, what music you're listening to. Do that for what you have. Like if you're going into a case, do that for, your day, do it for what you want for your future. Get into manifestation if you haven't already. I'm telling you guys, this stuff will change your life, and it has changed mine in ways that that I can't even believe. This isn't my pool, but it will be soon. You know what I mean? And it's really powerful. And just because it's not in the scientific literature doesn't mean there's not something behind it. So check it out. Other things that can work is smiling. Do you know that smiling tricks your brain into thinking that you're happy, even if you're not? So if you're having a rough time, just smile, just fake smile, even to yourself where no one's watching, so you don't look like the Joker or something, like do stuff like that. And it also helps your patients. It's a tip that I talk about in my noetic medicine course. Have them smile and use the other distraction techniques and everything while you're doing a procedure. If you smile when you're hurt, your body can't input all those same things at the same time. it picks the smile. It decreases your pain experience. Like it's really cool. When I broke my toe one time, my kids thought I was a psychopath because I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like smiling and laughing, like, oh my God, that hurt so bad. And they were like, are you okay? And I was okay. I was like, not okay because I broke my toe, but like I was way more okay than I probably would have been if I hadn't done that. You know, I've broken other bones where I did not use that strategy, and I can tell you they were way more painful. And even other toe breaking experiences, I trip a lot. Um, Also, fake laughing is another thing where if you fake laugh, ha ha ha, if you do it for long enough, it'll turn into a real one because you're like, this is ridiculous. And then all of a sudden, you're releasing more of your positive endorphins and getting you going in a good way, right? So use it to your advantage, rig your system like so it works for you. These are all things that, you know, tips and tricks along the way that I kind of put them all together, and they have made my life so fulfilling in and outside of the hospital. Like I just can't help but want to share them with all of you. Another big thing that we all know, or maybe we haven't been taught, but we should know, and I say should, not like you should know this, but because it's important. Our gut holds more serotonin receptors than our brain. Okay. So our guts matter. What we put into our bodies matters. Okay. And sometimes we can't have control over that. Sometimes um, we need to just eat what's in front of us, and that's okay too, right? But the more that you're able to clear it out, you know, do a colon cleanse every so often, hydrate really well, make sure you're getting a lot of fiber, fresh vegetables and fruits, all of the things that we advise our patients to, make sure you're doing that for yourself. And there are other things like that I've discovered, like Arbonne or other companies that make like vegan, organic, non-GMO products, like protein shakes that you can eat on the go. So you can be nourished while you're on shift or while you're off of it and still be getting good stuff in your body. The more that we reprogram our gut, the better our mood overall can be, the more in tune with our serotonin and our dopamine and everything, and the more balanced it is, which helps our mood, which helps our mental clarity. So it's all connected, right? So focus on your gut as much as you can. If you can't, you know, it's hard to do like a 3 day. I can't even believe I'm talking about because I hate talking about this stuff. But like, it's hard to do a 3 day colon cleanse when you're working 6 days a week, right? So find what you can, do what you can when you can. If you can't do that, at least be putting good non-toxic stuff into your body as much as you possibly can, not only for yourself, but also to lead by example for your patients. And then you have things to share with them, you know, then you can teach them about different products, you know, like I'm not trying to push Arbonne or anything else, but I'm telling you, like, there are things that can help our patients too, and they can help everyone make money too. They're like MLMs. It's kind of genius. Okay, our chest, our lungs specifically hold our grief. In Ayurvedic and Eastern, like Chinese medicine, the lungs are known to hold our grief. How many of you breathe deeply enough throughout your day, especially when you're stressed, especially when you're in the hospital, especially when you're in the clinic, especially when you are studying for boards, especially when you're dealing with a difficult patient encounter or a family conversation or your own family and relationships outside of the ED? How much of us are breathing as much as we should? How much of us are giving the oxygen back to ourselves that we should, right? So even if you don't ever take a breathwork workshop, even if you never do more than just taking a few deep cleansing breaths at the beginning of your day and at the end of it, filling up your lungs all the way to the top, and then taking a little bit more in, and then holding it for a few seconds, sipping a little bit more, and then exhale it all out. Do that a few times a day. And even just a couple times, you will see a difference because you're allowing your body to do more of its processing, do more of its carbon dioxide and oxygen exchange. And you're allowing your vagus nerve to take over again, right? You're sending messages to it that you are okay, that you don't need to be in fight or flight. The more grounded we can be, the more helpful we can be for ourselves, the more helpful we can be for our patients. And if you have time to check out breath work, or even if you don't, like one of the ones that that is my favorite. I'll just show you really quickly and then you can do with it as you wish. You sip in twice, once from the belly, once into your chest, and then you just let it fall out. So you go, and you do that 21 times or 22. And then you hold your breath after you take a nice big inhale. You hold it as long as you can. It seems unfathomable, but if you do like 30 seconds the first time around and then exhale and then hold it for 30 seconds. And then the second round, you do 3 rounds of this. Second round, you hold it for a minute out and then for a minute. And the third round, you can do a minute and a half easy. And that's without any training. The first time I did that, I was like, yeah, that's never going to happen. And I was like astounded that I could do it because I was so out of shape and like not, not prepared or like familiar with the technique. So we can do a lot more than we give ourselves credit for. You can check out, there's a ton of free resources, or I can hook you up with some people that I know that are awesome breathwork instructors if you want something more formal. You can do it on your own. You can go to classes. If you happen to live down in the Long Beach area, there's a community breathwork and cold plunge is free every Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Come join us, the more the merrier. Or if there's not one by you, talk to people about starting it. Like people in your healing community would love to do that kind of stuff. And if they knew there's interest, it doesn't have to be, sorry, I'm just cracking my neck. It doesn't have to be you doing it, but you can start plugging in and recruiting the people in your community to do these awesome things too. Okay. Our skin, we all know it's our biggest organ. It absorbs everything. So being very careful what you put on your skin, that's super important. You know, toxins are all around us. They've talked about how much microplastic is in the human body and DNA, and I don't even want to hear about it or know about it sometimes, but we need to know, right? So being really mindful about that and what you're absorbing, showering, taking baths, cleansing it off, right? That's another thing. And then also giving yourself some good old vitamin D, some sunshine, even if you're having to walk in between clinic or you're rushing in and out of the hospital or whatever, go outside even for a couple minutes and just soak in the sun. I like to even gaze at it, safely, so I'm not burning my retina, but like kind of like you're not looking straight at it, but you kind of look under it, or you kind of roll your eyes up so you're looking at it but not looking at it. Does that make sense? And then you can absorb even more. And there's a Tai Chi practice where you actually stick out your tongue and you point your mouth at the sun and just let it go down your throat. You look like a weirdo, but it actually is really cool. So next time you're somewhere, maybe not in public or in public, who cares? Try it and see what happens. Like, see the energy burst that you get. I'm sure you'll be surprised and like really stoked about it. Movement. Okay, so all of us know that it is extremely challenging as a provider, especially during residency, to find time to do adequate physical exercise. Okay. A lot of us then don't even try because we're like, oh, I don't have an hour to go to the gym. I don't have an hour for that class. I don't have 2 hours to surf, or I don't have time to go hiking or to play tennis or like whatever, basketball, like whatever it is that gets you going. If you have 5 minutes, do it for 5 minutes. If you can't make it happen because you're stuck on a 24-hour call or something, literally just run in place for 2 minutes, like, or do jumping jacks, right? Or push-ups or anything that can take the stairs, like anything that can help get your body moving, even if it's in little doses. And, don't shame yourself for how out of shape or out of wind you are so quickly taking the stairs, because we're so used to taking the elevators and having to be sedentary because we're sitting in front of a computer putting in those orders and whatever else. Give yourself grace, but give yourself movement. The amount of endorphins that are let out after like weightlifting, for instance, or moving our muscle, even calisthenics, or things that are body weight. You don't even need any weights. That helps release more endorphins. That helps get you going in a positive direction. Like, use your body to your advantage and give your body what it needs, even if it's in small doses. The amount of times that I've surfed for less than 50 minutes is kind of shocking. And even I've had, sorry if it's coming through. Okay, we're back. It is remarkable the amount of like win that I can get and the energy that I can expend and gain back, even from like literally I've done 5-minute surf sessions before where I'm like, okay, well, I caught 3 waves. That was amazing. And now I'm done because I got to go. Right. So like even short amounts of time can be really beneficial. things in the outside world that can be really beneficial. Grounding, if you are unfamiliar with it, or like earthing, this is not new. Like ancients and indigenous cultures have been doing this forever. They're barefoot in the sand, in the soil, on the earth. It does something for you. I'll get into the science behind it at another time, but it's been studied and it shows like better well-being, better mental health, like less anxiety, depression, better cardiovascular function, and like can reduce blood pressure issues, hypertension. It helps with sleep. That's just the list I can think of off the top of my head real quickly. Like there's a lot of really good benefits. And same thing, even if you don't have 30 minutes to do it, which it's been studied that beyond like 20, 30 minutes is usually like when it really kicks in and you get good results. Even a couple minutes of your feet in the grass or the sand or the water or on a rock or the mud, like whatever is around you or available, or go to a park or, wherever you can go and get a little bit of that in the planter. I've done it in a planter before, like just find what you can and make it happen for yourself. And you'll see the difference even in a few minutes. I already kind of touched on baths and showering when I was talking about skin, but taking time, I usually do it at the end of the day as kind of a ceremony, a ritual of processing. I take a bath or I take a hot shower. It is remarkable how water is so healing to us. If you can go for a swim, if you have access to dive in the ocean or a lake or wherever, like do it as often as you can. Okay. And even if that's not that often, that's okay. Cold exposure, like cold plunge therapy, is another one that really skyrockets your dopamine, serotonin, your norepi. There's a ton of cardiovascular and other benefits too. The science, it hasn't been studied that much yet, but there's scientific evidence coming out to support it as well. Try it out, and even if you can't do it for longer, even if it's just in the shower for a couple seconds because you can't make it to an actual cold plunge, do what you can and you'll be astounded with the results. Like the dopamine high that you get from that is seriously incredible, and it can last a couple days even. So if you can try to make that part of your regular routine, even like once a week, twice a week, either formally or just in your shower or, putting ice in your bath, like whatever modality you can, like it's pretty incredible. We already talked about the sun. The sun is amazing. Get yourself as much of it as you can. It is so healing. There's a reason why other cultures have worshipped the sun for millennia, like it's not for nothing. Sound healing, sound bowls, sound baths, frequency healings, listening to music that gets you lit up. They've done studies too on like your brain and the like the different frequencies that are let out, like gamma versus beta versus alpha, when you're listening to like, hard rock or something versus, and hard rock can be fine for you too. If it gets you going and it makes you feel good, do it. Versus like frequencies or like a sound bath or tranquil, like flowing, natural music, like ocean sounds or rain or any of that. It is amazing how it can take you into either a theta state or a beta state where you are able to be more relaxed, like alert, but relaxed, or even drift off to sleep. The amount of people I've seen fall asleep in sound baths is incredible. There's different solfeggio frequencies if you're ever into that. Like you can even find, there's an app called Meditative Mind that is free on YouTube that you can put in sleep meditation. And I put it super duper low. I'll listen to it when I'm taking a nap or even at sleep, during like a longer sleep. Oh my gosh, like I wake up so restored, even if it was like a 10 or 20-minute power nap. The dreams I have are incredible, and the way it kind of sets you up is incredible too. Like I said, the science is behind on like the other healing modalities or the healing benefits and properties that this has, but it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means we need to catch up. Hashtag noetic medicine. Come join me. It's so incredible the things that that are starting to be backed up more and more by science, but there's so much of it that we're like, well, I don't know, it just works, like anecdotally or actually evidence, like stat wise, it works, but we just don't know how. Sound healing is one of those things. Okay. Scents, incense, candles, copal or palo santo or other things that are used in ceremony around the world. I'm only reciting the ones that I know from like Latin, like Central and South America right off the top of my head. But scents can be really restorative too. Lavender, peppermint, patchouli, sage, like surround yourself either with natural scents, like if you can get yourself some flowers here and there, or essential oils or like the actual stuff. I sell Palo Santo if any of you are interested. Um, it does something for you sometimes. It connects with our olfactory system that is directly tied to our brain, obviously, right? Um, use it to your advantage, okay? Um, flowers, they've done studies that having fresh flowers or fresh plants in a house actually helps your mood, helps reduce anxiety, depression. Even when I was a broke resident, I would buy myself and my family like $5 bouquets from Trader Joe's or from the supermarket like once a week or once every couple of weeks because it makes you feel good. And if no one else is giving you flowers, give them to yourself. Male, female, trans, non-binary, like it doesn't matter. Flowers feel good. A friend of mine, her friend walked in with a bouquet of flowers for her. And I was like, oh my God, even seeing the gift to someone else made me happy. And it wasn't even for me. You know what I mean? Like, use our outside beautiful world in ways that support sustaining the environment to help you feel good too. Um, community. Community is huge. Okay. Whether that be within our professional community, whether that be that you're debriefing with a colleague over a gnarly case, or whether it be that you reach outside of our medical world and like engage with your community around you. Farmers markets, where I live, they do a bunch of like community events, like different festivals or like yoga on the bluff, or there's different, I throw parties down on the beach sometimes, you know, like getting involved and getting other people involved in your communities can be so life-giving. Okay. And also like, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. You know, now I have the bandwidth and the time and capacity to organize community events. I didn't have that when I was in residency, but I was able to attend other ones that were put on by other people and get filled up in that way and meet so many wonderful humans and be restored in that way. So consider that as well. Travel if you can. It doesn't have to be a big trip. It doesn't have to be super expensive, but getting out of your own environment for a little bit, even if it's taking a drive in a part of your own city that you're not familiar with. The amount of discovery that I still have when I just take a different turn on purpose in my own community is so fun. And it's like I was in another world, right? And so you don't have to travel far, but give yourself time and space to travel, you know, even if it means like I'm turning off my MapQuest and I'm just going to see where the road takes me. That's considered traveling, you know? If you're able to go on bigger trips, and especially if you're like looking for ways to save, I can hook you up. Like I found a way to get travel agent credentials and get super dope discounts. And this isn't a plug for me. This is just, I want to help you guys get the same things that I have, because I know how life-giving they are. Um, it kind of goes along with community, but storytelling. A lot of Native cultures, like storytelling is pivotal to their culture and to the way that they pass down information and their history and keeping it alive. It's also how we process, how we purge, either to each other or journal it to yourself. Tell yourself a story, make it into a story, or just, you know, stream of consciousness. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be you being you and sharing your story. If you talk to yourself in the car, do you know the amount of times where I've processed out loud a tough case as if I were on the phone with a friend? And no, I'm not psycho. I just was like, I need to tell this to someone. I just don't have anyone to tell right now that would understand. And I don't have the weight, I don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to explain it to someone who doesn't get it. I just need to be heard. Scream in your car, shout at the ocean, get your voice out, express it so that it doesn't stay inside. Okay. Um, organize trauma debriefs if they don't already have them where you are, like, you know, so you have a culture of like wrapping around each other as you're going through something hard. I remember before I went to my residency, they talked about this thing. It was called like CCC, where it was something about compassion for caregivers or something. Do you know, none of us ever had the time to actually utilize it. So, you know, talk to your residency too, or talk to your administration about making these things more accessible, meet you where you're at, like either trauma debriefings or like have them put in a gym in your call room, have them bring you guys lunch or dinner when you're doing it overnight, you know, like enlist them to help you. They are getting paid for every resident salary. Your residency gets twice that, right? Have them use it for us, okay? Have them use it for you. It is important. Um, Other things. So some supplements that I find to be super helpful, and there's a ton of them. So I'll put a PDF that has more of them. L-theanine is a really helpful one for the brain and mood. Ashwagandha, magnesium, specifically magnesium glycinate, if you can find it. There's one supplement called Calm My Brain that's recommended by like some child therapists that I know and child psychiatrists. They also have, there's another one that I find on like Amazon. It's called Ease Mood. The name and brand doesn't matter. I'm not affiliated with any of these. I'm just trying to give you some examples of different herbs and supplements that can be helpful. There's a slew more that I'm forgetting right now. And for the sake of time, I'll leave them out. Adaptogens. So adaptogens primarily in the form of like mushrooms, non-psychedelic mushrooms, which also plant medicine is a whole nother discussion for a time on a different platform. But so adaptogens like lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi, shiitake, like there's so many different ones that help with different functions in our body, our immune system, our inflammation, our mental clarity. I halfway through residency switched out of coffee. I was drinking like 8 cups a day and I switched to mushroom coffee and I would just have one in the morning or one at night going into a night shift and I'd be good, you know? And so use the things that nature has already given us, use the things that are more natural, use the things that are going to help your gut also, kicking back to that. And the last part that, you know, is a sticky subject always because we live in a society where we have all these med school loans or education loans. We have, you know, we're making small amounts while we're working really hard and we're kind of struggling. Money Money doesn't solve everything, but it solves a lot of things. It solves that worry about scarcity. It solves that like having to stress about your finances. So if you're interested, I have a lot of ways that you can be making money while you're still in residency that don't require work, that don't require you to be grinding away or in front of a computer any more than you already are and don't want to be probably. Reach out to me. I'm happy to share all those and give you plugs. I'll put some of them in the PDF that I include. Tap in, you know, there's so much goodness there. And you don't have to be poor just because you're a resident and you don't have to worry about money and rely only on your job that you're trying to get to that attending salary. You don't have to fully rely on that. You can, and that's okay too. But if you want other things, like I fully recommend, diversifying your income flow and having multiple streams of income. That is a safety net in case anything, knock on all the things, in case anything ever happens to you and you can't work in your profession. It also helps you to not have to devote so much of your time and energy to one thing. Okay. If you feel so filled up by what you do that you want to do it 80 hours a week, go for it. If out of residency, that's not the life that you envision for yourself, there are ways around it. Okay. So talk to me. There's other physicians out there sharing the same information. Talk to them, talk to attendees and figure out what they're doing. Talk to investors, like talk to everyone, get that information, get yourself abundant now, even. So you don't have to worry about it later. Okay, that was a lot. And it was fast. I hope I don't even want to know what I sound like on double speed because I'm always double speed. But I just wanted to make sure we got it in the short amount of time together. I don't know that we left any room for questions, but reach out to me if you have any questions. DM me on Instagram. I'm Surfer Dr. Arcoiris. You can email me at surferdoctorash@gmail.com. If you have my personal phone, you can use that as well. Just, you know that I might not get back to you depending on the time, but you can hit me up anytime. I'll just get back to it when I can. Yeah. And thank you for taking the first step towards taking better care of yourself. It is so important. This world needs you. You matter. Every single one of you. And you each have a world that is dependent on you for one thing or another, whether it just be that you exist in the healing role that you're in, whether it be because you're their friend, their partner, their parent, their child. You are everyone. You are like someone's world also. Okay. So let's do a better job of giving ourselves the time and the energy that we deserve so that we can take care of the world and we can heal this place. You in? Okay, I'm just going to close this off with a couple of nice deep breaths. Thank you all for sharing this time. Thank you, universe, for giving me these messages to share and the platform to do it. Thank you to the union and other things that are sponsoring so that you can get reimbursed for this. Thank you to each one of these individuals who have joined in search for ways to ground their wellness. And I hope that these are helpful. Thank you all. We'll talk soon.